Usually I like to prepare my videos during the week, so when it gets to Saturday and I'm recording, I can have a pretty good idea of what I want to say. But that's kind of been hard this week because every time I wasn't working at my main job, I was playing Resident Evil. I was too eager to get back to it, like Requiem. This game is amazing, and I'll probably have to talk about it more at some point. But for now, I really did want to talk about the reveal of Pokémon Winds and Waves last week. I did do a live reaction to the Pokémon Presents and I made a little short about it later, but I feel like I have a lot of thoughts that I'd like to share about this, so let's talk about it. And that, of course, has to start with the release timing, because when I made my video with the review and rant on Pokémon Legends EA last year, I said that despite this being my favorite game in the series, it failed to address a lot of the complaints that people have with the Pokémon series at the time, especially, things like balancing performance, visuals, and just the scope of the game itself. And there's a specific quote that I said that I think now feels a little silly. This was the biggest break they've taken with the franchise in a long time, and this was their opportunity to really make that jump, to make something that really felt more complete than ever. And they still didn't. And next year is the 30th anniversary of Pokémon, so they're getting back on the grind to get something out next year. Like, it's going to happen. Honestly, I truly thought that there was no way the Pokémon Company and Game Freak would let the 30th anniversary of the series come and go without a new major game release, but I could not be happier to be wrong about this. What Pokémon games have needed for the longest time is just more time to cook, and the fact that this is the second game in a row that has a longer than usual development period is super encouraging. Some people have suggested that this is just to avoid launching around the same time as GTA 6 because that's currently scheduled for November, and that's usually the time frame that Pokemon games come out in. But Pokemon is like just as much of a juggernaut as GTA is, so I don't know if they would need to move out of the way for that. It's certainly possible that it influenced the decision, but I'm sure that's not the only factor here. I also saw that the Japanese trailer actually supposedly said that the games were coming out in the summer of next year, initially before being corrected and replaced with the more generic 2027 timeframe. And I hope that that summer date isn't true, but it's also not terrible either way. It's not like Pokemon Legends Arceus where they announced it for the next year, and then it turned out it came out in January. Like, the summer still gives you like a good bit more time to work on this. Though it is a bit of an interesting time frame, I don't think a Pokemon game has come out in the summer since Black 2 and White 2 in Japan. Those came out in the summer over there, before releasing in October here. So it's been a long time since a Pokemon game came out in that time frame, and I'm curious to see if they'll actually do that this time around, and why they would think that's the best approach. But that leads us to the second reason why this trailer is really exciting, and that's the fact that the game already looks good. Like, frankly, this is a huge step up, like a humongous step up from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in just about every way. Like, the environments are way more detailed, the areas we saw are very large, and things render in higher quality way further in the background. Like, the polygons still look good, things don't run at like a super low frame rate in the background or something like that. Like, it just runs way more smoothly across the entire environment. And also, like, the fact that it does run smoothly in the trailer. And there's also like a lot of new lighting tech at play with what we've seen. Like, they showed off some ambient occlusion in parts of the trailer. We saw Slugma, and Slugma has like this shine to it in this cave. Like, there's a source of light coming out of Slugma, and that's really cool. Like, there's a lot going on here that Pokemon games haven't done before, and it manages to still run smoothly in the trailer. So that is great news. And that's also because in the past, Pokemon trailers, the first reveal of a Pokemon game in recent years, has usually shown these games in a pretty bad light. Like, if you remember Pokemon Legends Arceus, like, the final product wasn't perfect, but the initial reveal trailer for Legends Arceus was super concerning. I remember seeing the trailer and seeing reactions to it, and everyone was talking about it. I'm like, it seemed to run so poorly. Like, the frame rate was terrible. Even Pokemon that were really close to you were running at like half the frame rate of what they were supposed to be. The colors are kind of weird. Like, there was a lot that didn't look great with Legends Arceus during its first reveal. And yeah, the final product still had its issues with the frame rate in certain areas and like rendering things in the distance, but it was a huge improvement from what we initially saw. And so like that just goes to show that like Game Freak and Pokemon Company have never been afraid to show these games in their worst state, like in whatever state they're in at the time that they're shown. They'll show it, like they're not afraid to show things running poorly. So if you're someone who's worried like, oh, it looks good now, it's probably gonna be way worse in the final product, which I don't know why you think that. I know that like there's that phrase that appears in the trailer like that says the footage is not representative of the final product yet, like it's a game in development. But we've seen time and time again with Pokemon games that what that means is that this game looks worse now than it's going to look when it actually comes out. Like every time we've seen this, the Pokemon games tend to look better in the end than they do in that initial reveal trailer. It happened for Legends Arceus, and it happened for Scarlet and Violet, and I'm sure that's going to happen again. So if you're worried that this is somehow misleading, if anything, it probably just looks worse than what we're actually going to get. And that's why it's so exciting, because yeah, it already looks good, and they still have over a year to polish things up. So I'm very excited to see how much better it might look by the time we actually get to the release in, say, the summer of 2027 or maybe the winter of 2027. I'm really looking forward to that. I will say, of course, this is the first main series game that is exclusive to the Switch 2, and that's obviously why they're able to do as much as they are now. And realistically, when you put this game up against other games on the Switch 2, like Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, Cyberpunk 2077, like graphically, I don't think what Pokemon is doing is impressive for the Switch 2 itself. But it is a huge step up, and it looks, like I said, good. It looks good. So even if it's not pushing any boundaries, I think the way it looks is good to see. I'm happy for that. So what else? Should I talk about the starters? Yeah, so like during the trailer, I pointed out that like they looked like fake Pokemon designs that a fan would make. But like realistically, that we can't really be too harsh on that, because this series is 30 years old. There's a good chance that the people designing these Pokemon now were fans 30 years ago. Like, and when you have over 1,000 Pokemon already in existence, some designs are going to, they're not going to feel as unique or cool as some of the older ones. It is what it is. I think at some point this kind of has to happen. But I do like the design somewhat. I think actually Gekwa might be my favorite. I don't know, something about the color and the design and how it comes together, I really like it. But Palmdon is also very cute, and I have this tradition of choosing the fire type starter, and I like it enough that I will probably keep that tradition here. I've only ever broken that tradition once with Generation 7, so yeah, I think I'm still gonna go with Palmdon. And then my least favorite is probably Brout. It doesn't look terrible, but I don't know, I feel like it has potential to have like really cool looking evolutions. I did like choose Rowlet in Generation 7, that's the one where I broke that streak. And I really liked what Rowlet turned into. So if they can make it, Brout really cool with its evolutions, I think that would be great to see. I think there's potential for that. Now I also want to talk about what this game might mean or might not mean for the future of Pokemon as a whole. Because in this Pokemon Presents, we also saw Pokemon Champions again, and now we know it's coming in April. And a year ago, when Pokemon Champions was first revealed alongside Legends EA, I made a video about that, and now the future of Pokemon was about to change forever. And now we saw it again, and I'm still kind of leaning towards that idea. So like Pokemon Champions is an app or a game that's going to be focused exclusively on the classic Pokemon battles, the typical turn-based RPG battles in the Pokemon series. And they announced here in this presentation that Pokemon Champions is going to be used for the Pokemon World Championships this summer instead of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think. They didn't specifically say that it was instead of Scarlet and Violet, but they mentioned Pokemon Champions Go, Unite, and the trading card game. And so that covers all the areas of the event, video games, Unite, Go, and trading card game. So I think Champions is replacing Scarlet and Violet. And because Champions seems very clearly positioned to be something that runs alongside the main series, I don't think, come next year or 2028 or whatever, it wouldn't make sense for Winds and Waves to replace Champions again in the championships. I feel like Champions is just going to be their core focus going forward for the multiplayer and the meta of Pokemon. So do these main games have to adhere to that gameplay formula at this point if people are going to be doing all the multiplayer fights in Champions? And at the same time, Legends EA introduced this completely new battle system. They had to rethink how all of these moves work in this completely different context with like more real-time action where your position matters. They had to rework all of these moves to have a totally different meaning. Like, it's not like Legends Arceus where they just introduced like fast styles or strong styles for moves and it made a little tweak to the battle system. Like, this is a lot of work that had to go into making the battle system for Legends EA. So did they just make that for one game and now they're going to discard it going forward? I have a hard time believing that. So is that gonna be the standard now for Winds and Waves? I'm not sure. Because at the same time, it's also like, so yeah, Pokemon Champions is the main focus, but you're getting all these Pokemon in the main series, and you're getting to know them. If you use a different battle system, you're getting to know these Pokemon in a totally different context. Training a Pokemon to use the battle system in Legends EA is completely different from training that Pokemon to use the battle system in the classic Pokemon games, because there's the moves and everything works so much differently. So like, how can you have people train their Pokemon in a game that has one battle system to then prepare them for the World Championships that has a completely different battle system? So it may not really make sense to have this disparity between the main series and Champions. So I'm really not sure which way they're going to go about this, if maybe they're going to be both battle systems at once in some way. I don't know exactly what they're going to do here, and I'm very curious to see where it goes. They didn't really show the battle system in this game at all. You saw some wild Pokemon, you saw a Pokeball catching a Pokemon, and we saw Pikachu with this fighting stance in battle. But we didn't really see what the battle itself looked like. We just saw Pikachu by itself, seemingly facing the trainer. So I don't really know which way this is going to go. And I'm very curious as to what that means, because, personally, I definitely would prefer seeing more games in the Legends EA style going forward. But I am curious about how that works and plays into the larger franchise now that Champions is also becoming a thing. And finally, I do want to touch on what this means for Nintendo as a whole, because, Nintendo has been holding their cards pretty close to their chest so far this year. Aside from Tomodachi Life on the Switch 1, we really don't know the release dates of any brand new games for the rest of the entire year so far. Like, we know the Switch 2 edition of Mario Bros. Wonder, if you want to consider that, but games like Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, Splatoon Raiders, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, those have been announced and don't have specific dates yet. And still, even if we did know those dates, it's only 3 games. There's a lot that we don't know yet. And until that presentation for Pokemon aired, you could at least think like, well, if nothing else comes, at least we have Pokemon. Like, that was the mentality that I had, because I was so sure Pokemon would launch in the winter of this year. But now it's not. So obviously Nintendo has to have something else in the cards, right? I don't know what it's going to be, but there has to be something that we don't know. There has to be a lot that we don't know, because there aren't a lot of games that we know are coming. And yeah, there's got to be something like for the holiday season. Nintendo loves having a big hit during that holiday season. Last year we actually had a lot of games come out, from October to December. But, they always have to have at least one. And it's usually something like Mario or Pokemon, of course. So I don't know. I've heard some reports that a 3D Mario may actually be in the works for this year. I saw some rumors about something called Super Mario Titans or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that's not real. But yeah, either way, there's a lot that we don't know about Nintendo's 2026. So I'm very curious about that too. Hopefully we get like a proper direct or some kind of announcement sometime soon, because yeah, right now things feel pretty weirdly empty for the Switch 2 in 2026. Which, you know, that's not me like spreading doom and gloom. I'm sure Nintendo has a plan, we just don't know what it is yet. So yeah, but anyway, those are my thoughts on Pokemon Winds and Waves and what it means for the series and for itself and for Nintendo. I had a bunch of thoughts that I wanted to get out there, so there you go. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. Tonight, if you're watching this on Saturday when I'm recording it, I'm streaming Resident Evil 7 for the first time, playing it for the first time. Since it's on the Switch too, I'm very excited about that. So I hope to see you there. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!